U.S. President Donald Trump proposing a 100% tariff on computer chips.
We're going to be putting a very large tariff on chips and semiconductors. But the good news for companies like Apple is if you're building in the United States or have committed to build, without question committed to build in the United States, there will be no charge. In other words.
Well, the Trump administration says this move is going to bring more money and jobs to America. Some analysts say it may raise the price of electronics, including cars and refrigerators, because remember, all of those things use computer chips. For more on this latest threat, we are joined by Jon Erlichman, financial commentator. Jon, these sound like bully tariffs, right? Move your manufacturing to the U.S. or else face 100% tariffs. It's surprising when you think about, like, just stop and think about how many things outside of a computer use computer chips.
Everywhere, yeah.
First of all, let's start with what kinds of products would be affected by this.
Well, you know, you just heard the president talking about Apple, and just another piece of context. Not only did the president celebrate a win of Apple committing another $100 billion to sort of a Made in America strategy this week, so they've already committed more than $500 billion, but he brought to the White House with him a Made in America plaque with a 24-karat gold base.
Tim
because
Cook did, to give to
Tim
the president.
Cook to the president. And the symbolism there is pretty strong. I mean, there's arguably no bigger CEO in America or the world than Tim Cook. He's in the Oval Office, and he's trying to appease the president. President loves that and used that as the backdrop to say, by the way, if you're not following the Apple way, you could be subject to these tariffs. And yes, it could complicate all sorts of product prices, but the caveat here is the president saying, if you invest in America, you can avoid those additional import costs, which would double the costs for companies and ultimately be passed on to consumers.
You know, the other thing I thought about, you know, this push is to have more jobs, but most of the manufacturing of chips and semiconductors is robotics. So really, what kind of job investment are they looking at in America?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, and I'm not sure that in all of these trade narratives, we get into the nitty-gritty on employment. We certainly don't get into the nitty-gritty of where products are made, because chips, obviously a lot of this is directed squarely at China. Yeah. But chip manufacturing often moves products from China to South Korea, to Malaysia, to Vietnam. So there's this wide ecosystem. But I do think at a time when there's going to be massive spending because of things like AI on data centers and just all sorts of jobs that are indirectly or directly related to this, the president's strategy is getting, you know, some attention. For any country that actually wants to bring business to their home market. Certainly puts a little bit of pressure on Canada, but as for the jobs that go into this, that's a little bit up in the air for sure.
Yeah, who actually benefits from this announcement? You and I were just talking about this. This is a very multi-layered announcement. This is more than just manufacturing in the USA, America first. This is political. Not only to American businesses, but to outside countries as well.
Yeah, and I think that, look, you've already seen a lot, not only American companies that are investing more in America, but even semiconductors. You've got Samsung, you've got Taiwan Semiconductor, who have committed billions and billions of dollars to the U.S. to make sure the U.S. is on side with their strategies. And even this week, you saw Donald Trump accusing the CEO of Intel, probably the most storied chip manufacturer. The new CEO has ties to China, whether it's through the business he used to run, doing business with China, his personal investments. He wants him out of the job. So that's kind of a new layer of political uncertainty that comes from a story like this, which we'll have to watch pretty closely.
We don't have a ton of time, but I got to ask this question. Is this sending a message to other industries? Because obviously the tech industry is not the only one he's talking to here. Auto, for example, kiss the ring or face the tariffs seems to be the message.
Yeah, bring a 24-karat gold plaque to the White House, or the tariff story could go on. And obviously that's a complicated story for companies and countries like Canada as well.
Always great to have you here, Jon.
Thanks Anne-Marie.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.